You know that feeling, don't you? That sickening moment when someone looks you dead in the eye and tells you something never happened even though you lived it. When they twist your words, rewrite your memories, and somehow make you feel like the crazy one for remembering the truth. You've tried everything. You've gathered proof. You've explained yourself until your voice went hoarse. You've replayed conversations in your head at 3 a.m., wondering if maybe, just maybe, you really are losing your mind. But here's what no one tells you. You're not going insane. You're losing a game you were never meant to win. Carl Jung discovered something revolutionary about gaslighting, and it's not what you think. It's not about having better evidence. It's not about explaining yourself more clearly. It's not about making them finally see the truth. It's about something that feels completely, terrifyingly wrong, but strips away the gaslighter's power in an instant. In 1921, a woman we'll call Sophia walked into Jung's practice in Zurich, carrying 3 years of her life in written form. Journals stacked on journals, letters meticulously filed. Dates, times, exact quotes, everything documented with forensic precision. She'd spent hundreds of hours building an airtight case against her husband, proof that the conversations he denied having had actually happened, evidence that the promises he claimed he never made were real. "If I can just show him everything," she told Jung, her hands trembling as she gestured to the mountain of documentation. "He'll have to admit the truth, then we can finally move forward." But by the time Sophia reached Jung's door, she couldn't trust her own memory anymore. She'd lie awake in the dark, replaying conversations word by word, frame by frame, desperately trying to determine if she'd imagined them. She was teetering on the edge of complete psychological collapse. And Jung told her something that changed everything. "You're not losing your mind," Jung said quietly. "You're losing a game you were never meant to win. The most powerful response isn't better evidence. It's refusing to play. If you've ever felt like you're spiraling into madness while desperately trying to prove you're sane, you're experiencing what Jung called the gaslighting trap. And understanding why empaths fall into it reveals the only response that actually works. Here's what Jung recognized that Sophia couldn't see. Her husband wasn't denying reality because he lacked evidence. He was denying reality because denying reality gave him power. Every single time Sophia tried to prove what happened, she handed him that power all over again. This is the trap. When your greatest strength as an empath, your hunger for truth, your belief in authentic connection, your conviction that understanding creates resolution, becomes the very weapon used to destroy you. Sophia had operated from one fundamental assumption. This was a good faith disagreement about facts. If she could just present enough evidence, clarity would emerge, truth would prevail. But reality distortion isn't a disagreement. It's a power play. You're trying to win a debate that was never about truth in the first place. Here's what happens when you gather evidence. You document the conversation. You save the text. You record the promise. And when you present it, they say, "You wrote that because you're paranoid." You're taking it out of context. The fact that you kept this proves how obsessive you are. Normal people don't record everything. This is unhinged behavior. The evidence you gathered to prove you're not crazy becomes their evidence that you are. One of Jung's patients actually recorded conversations with her manipulative partner, irrefutable audio proof of his exact words. When she played them back, he didn't miss a beat. "You edited these. You're trying to frame me. This is psychotic behavior." The recording became proof of her instability. Sylvia Plath kept detailed journals documenting Ted Hughes's affairs and emotional abuse. He constantly insisted she was jealous, paranoid, mentally ill. Her journals, which should have validated her reality, were later weaponized as evidence of her fragile mental state. After her death, Hughes controlled her literary estate and destroyed significant portions of her diaries. The evidence never protected her. It never does. Because here's the pattern manipulators follow when confronted with evidence. Step 1. Deny the reality. Step 2. Attack the person presenting the evidence. Step 3. Reverse roles. Suddenly they're the victim of your false accusations. You're harassing me with your paranoid delusions. I'm the victim here. I have to walk on eggshells around your instability. Every journal entry becomes proof you're obsessive. Every saved text becomes proof you're controlling. The evidence trap keeps you locked in the game, gathering more proof, watching them deny it, gathering even more proof, watching the denial escalate until you collapse from sheer exhaustion or accept their version of reality just to survive. When evidence failed, Sophia tried something else. Better explanations. Different words, different approaches, different angles. If I could just explain it clearly enough, he'd finally understand. He'd see what he's doing. He'd realize how his denial is destroying me. Hundreds of explanations, maybe thousands. And not once did he say, "Oh, now I see. You're right. That did happen." Instead, by the end of every conversation, her voice would be raw, her mind foggy from searching for those perfect words that would finally break through. He'd listen. He'd nod. Then, "I hear what you're saying, but you're remembering it wrong. I understand you feel that way, but your feelings don't change reality." He'd use therapy language, validation language, but underneath, the message was crystal clear. Your reality is invalid. One of Jung's other patients faced an even more sophisticated version. "I validate your feelings, but I can't validate a false memory. I care about you too much to enable your delusions." Reality distortion, dressed up in compassion. "I'm denying your truth because I love you." Here's what the research shows. Constant explanation depletes your cognitive resources. Your brain is working overtime, burning through energy, trying to bridge an unbridgeable gap, searching for the perfect combination of words that will finally make them understand. But there is no perfect explanation, because the problem isn't your communication. It's their investment in denial. Sophia would explain until she was utterly drained. The next day, they'd be right back at the beginning. He'd deny something new. She'd explain again. The cycle consumed her entire life. And here's why this is so insidious. Empaths believe that understanding creates connection. Manipulators exploit this belief ruthlessly. They let you explain endlessly because it serves three purposes. It exhausts you. It keeps you engaged in trying to fix the relationship. It prevents you from taking action based on what you already know. The explanation cycle is a trap disguised as communication. There's a haunting passage written by a woman during her darkest period. "Perhaps I am mad. Perhaps everything I think I see is delusion. How can I trust my own mind when he seems so certain? What if the problem is me?" The woman was Zelda Fitzgerald. Her husband, F. Scott Fitzgerald, was an alcoholic who had affairs. But when Zelda confronted him about reality, he insisted she was mentally ill, jealous, paranoid, delusional. He had her institutionalized multiple times. She wrote in her journals about doubting her own sanity, questioning every single perception, wondering if she was the unstable one. Zelda was locked away while Scott's alcoholism and infidelity continued unchallenged. The reality distortion succeeded. She doubted herself into submission. By the time Sophia reached Jung, she was drowning in the same spiral. Maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I do remember things wrong. Maybe I'm too sensitive. He seems so certain. What if he's right and I'm the one who's confused? This is the third trap, the most insidious of all. Reality distortion doesn't just make you doubt specific memories. It makes you doubt your capacity to perceive reality accurately. It creates a split between you and your own experience. Jung recognized this as a form of dissociation. Sophia was no longer integrated with her own perception. She'd watch something happen, then immediately question, "Did I really see that? Did I understand it correctly? Am I being too sensitive?" The constant questioning fractured her relationship with herself. And here's the devastating truth. The moment you doubt your own perception, you've handed them the weapon. Because now they don't even have to convince you your reality is false, you're doing it to yourself. Modern research on trauma shows that when someone you're attached to consistently contradicts your experience, your brain faces an impossible choice: maintain accurate perception or maintain the attachment. For empaths, especially those with childhood histories of invalidation, the brain often chooses attachment. It's less threatening to doubt yourself than to accept that someone you love is deliberately distorting reality. This creates what researchers call betrayal trauma. Your brain knows something is profoundly wrong but cannot fully acknowledge it without destabilizing everything. Sophia experienced this as constant, obsessive second-guessing. She'd replay conversations for hours, trying to determine if she'd misunderstood. She'd analyze her reactions, wondering if she was too emotional. She'd question everything about herself while questioning nothing about him. The self-doubt spiral is the final stage before complete collapse. And Sophia was there when she finally found Jung. These three responses, gathering evidence, endless explanation, spiraling self-doubt, all share one fatal flaw. They keep you playing a game designed for you to lose. But in their third session together, Jung gave Sophia an instruction that seemed impossible. Stop trying to convince him. Stop gathering evidence. Stop explaining. In fact, stop discussing reality with him altogether. Sophia was horrified. But if I don't defend my perception, he wins. He gets to control what's real. Jung shook his head slowly. He already controls what's real in his mind. The question is, will you let him control what's real in yours? This is it, the response that changes everything. Strategic withdrawal from the reality negotiation. Not running away, not giving up, not admitting defeat. Refusing to participate in a debate about what happened. The insight was radical. Manipulators require your participation in the debate about reality. Without your participation, the game cannot continue. Jung taught Sophia a technique with 4 critical elements. Keep writing, Jung told her, but not to prove to him, to validate for yourself. The journal shifted from being external evidence to an internal anchor. Write what happened, not to show anyone, but to remind yourself, this is what I experienced. This is what I know. Every time her husband denied something, instead of brandishing the journal as proof, Sophia would read it privately and think, I know what happened. His denial doesn't change reality. This is the foundation. You trust your perception as the final authority. Not because you're never wrong, but because your perception is the only reality you can act on. The next time Sophia's husband denied a conversation, she used a completely new response. Not, yes you did, I wrote it down, here's the date. But I know what I experienced. I'm not discussing this further. Then, silence. He pushed. You're doing it again. Making things up. She repeated calm and steady. I know what I experienced. I'm not discussing this. He escalated. This is crazy. You can't just refuse to talk about this. She stood up. I'm not discussing this further. And she left the room. This felt impossible to Sophia. Every fiber of her being screamed to defend herself, to explain, to make him see. But the debate is the trap. When you defend yourself, you're accepting the premise that your reality is up for negotiation. It's not. Refusing the debate isn't aggressive. It's not even defensive. It's simply declining to treat your reality as questionable. Key phrases. I know what I experienced. I'm not discussing this further. You can believe what you want. I know what happened. This conversation is over. Then actual silence. Not an explanation of why you're ending the conversation, just ending it. By month 4, Sophia stopped trying to change his mind. She changed her behavior based on what she knew, without waiting for his admission, without his validation, without his confession. She acted on reality. She moved to a separate bedroom. She opened a separate bank account. She stopped attending events with him. She started planning her exit strategy. Her husband was stunned. You can't do this without talking to me. I'm not asking permission. I'm informing you of my decisions. This felt harsh to her, but here's the truth. Actions speak when words fail. She didn't need his confession to take care of herself. This was the hardest part. Her husband could deny reality forever. That was his choice. But his denial didn't obligate her to doubt herself. She could know what she knew while he denied what he denied. This meant accepting that the relationship might not survive truth. And that's terrifying. But it's also freedom. It removes the fuel. Manipulators need your engagement in the debate, your defensiveness, your desperate attempts to prove yourself. Without these, the dynamic collapses. You're not fighting them. You're not explaining yourself. You're simply living in your reality while they live in theirs. This drives manipulators to escalation, but the escalation reveals their true nature. Sophia implemented Jung's technique over 6 months. Here's what unfolded. She stopped gathering evidence, stopped explaining. The first week felt unbearable. Every time her husband denied something, her hands itched for her journal. Her mouth ached to explain. But she held the line. I know what happened. I'm not discussing this. He was confused. This wasn't the game they'd played for 3 years. When withdrawal didn't bring her back, he intensified dramatically. New accusations appeared. You're being cold. You're shutting me out. You're punishing me with silence. This is emotional abuse. Jung had warned her, when you stop playing, they escalate. This is confirmation you're doing it right. Manipulators need you engaged. When you disengage, they'll do everything to pull you back in. Her husband recruited others, what researchers call flying monkeys. He told friends, she's acting strange. I'm worried about her mental health. She refuses to communicate. By month 3, friends were calling. He's really concerned about you. Maybe you should just talk to him about what's bothering you. Sophia replied, I've talked for 3 years. I'm done talking. But he says you're refusing to communicate. I'm refusing to debate my reality. That's different. Some friends understood. Some chose his version. Sophia had to accept losing relationships built on her self-betrayal. Jung had told her, every person who falls away because you stopped doubting yourself is revealing they needed you doubtful. Let them go. She made decisions based on what she knew. Separate bedroom, separate bank account, stopped attending events, started planning her exit. Her husband, you can't do this without talking to me. I'm not asking permission. I'm informing you of my decisions. This felt harsh, but she was being sane. She was acting on reality instead of pretending his denial changed it. The accusations grew wilder. You're having an affair. You're stealing from me. You're poisoning everyone against me. The reality distortion intensified because it was failing. Desperate attempts to regain control. Jung had told Sophia, his escalation is evidence you're succeeding. Manipulators only escalate when they're losing power. By month 6, Sophia knew with complete clarity her husband would never admit truth. He was committed to denial. She left. Not in confusion, not doubting herself, not wondering if she'd tried hard enough. She left knowing, I saw what I saw. I know what I know. His denial doesn't change reality. When you stop playing, here's what happens. Stage 1. Confusion. Why aren't you defending yourself? Stage 2. Escalation. More dramatic accusations, recruiting others. Stage 3. Rage. How dare you treat me like this? Stage 4. Bargaining. Let's just talk about this reasonably. Stage 5. Smear campaign. Telling everyone you're unstable. Very few admit truth. Most escalate until you either return to the game or leave entirely. Reality distortion requires your participation in the negotiation. Withdrawal removes their power. But withdrawal requires accepting the relationship may not survive truth. And that's why most people stay trapped rather than risk the loss. Staying in the game guarantees psychological destruction. You'll lose yourself trying to prove yourself. Leaving the game risks relationship destruction. But the relationship was already built on your self-betrayal. A relationship that requires you to doubt your own perception is not a relationship. It's a hostage situation. 6 months after leaving her husband, Sophia sat in Jung's office describing a new problem. I'm free of him, but I'm not free of the doubt. I still question everything I perceive. How do I trust myself again? This is the final work, repairing the fracture between you and your perception. Reality distortion doesn't just damage your relationship with the manipulator, it damages your relationship with yourself. You've learned to doubt your primary source of information about reality, your own experience. Don't try to trust your judgment about big things immediately. Sophia began with tiny perceptions. I feel cold right now. Notice if you want to question this. Practice. Yes, I feel cold. That's true. I'm hungry. Notice doubt. Practice. Yes, I'm hungry. I trust this. That person just cut in line. Notice wanting to think maybe you misunderstood. Practice. No, they cut. I saw it. Small truths repeated daily rebuild the neural pathway of trusting your perception. Within 2 months, Sophia could identify. I'm angry, without immediately questioning if she was overreacting. I don't like this person, without wondering if she was being too judgmental. Continue journaling, but with new purpose, not to prove to others, but to validate yourself. Today, this happened. I experienced it this way. This is my reality. The journal becomes a record of your perceptions being valid, being yours, being trustworthy. Over time, you accumulate evidence not for others, but for yourself. My perceptions have been accurate. I can trust them. Sophia joined a support group for people who'd experienced manipulation. For the first time, she spoke about her experiences and heard. Yes, that happened. Yes, you saw it clearly. Yes, you're not crazy. After reality distortion, you need people who don't make you question your sanity. People who respond to your perceptions with, I believe you, that's real, trust yourself. Not flying monkeys. Not people who say, well, maybe he didn't mean it that way. Not people who suggest you're too sensitive. People who validate that your reality is valid. Your body knows truth even when your mind doubts. Sophia learned to notice physical responses. When he denied reality, what did your body feel? Tightness in my chest, nausea, like I couldn't breathe. And when you finally trusted your perception, relief, lightness, like I could breathe again. The body doesn't lie. When something feels wrong, it is wrong even if you can't articulate why. If your body reacts with tension, dread, or nausea around someone's version of reality, that's information. Trust the somatic signal. After a year of this work, Sophia told Jung, I still doubt sometimes, but now I catch it. I notice when I'm questioning myself unnecessarily, and I can choose to trust my perception. Not I'll never be fooled again, that's rigidity born from trauma. But I trust myself to know what I know. That's sovereignty. Sophia's ultimate insight. For 3 years I needed him to believe me. I thought without his validation, my reality wasn't real. Now I understand. I don't need anyone to believe me. I believe me. That's enough. The most powerful response to gaslighting isn't a clever comeback. It's not a perfect explanation. It's not even standing up for yourself in the moment. The most powerful response is this: trusting your perception so completely that no one else's denial can shake it. Refusing to debate reality with someone invested in distortion, acting on what you know regardless of whether they admit it. This removes the manipulator's power completely, not by defeating them in argument, but by withdrawing from the game altogether. You didn't survive reality distortion to spend the rest of your life doubting yourself. You survived it to discover what Jung knew. Your perception is the ground you stand on. No one can take that ground unless you hand it to them. The most powerful response is keeping your ground. Thanks for being here. See you in the next dimension.